Hello, hello, Delight. I am so excited to have you here. We're having a conversation today with Delight Rogers. I have the pleasure of not only working with her in the Remarkable League, but having her a guest on Deck of Dreams. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm so happy to be here. I love that I get to talk about art and my art business with someone, hopefully lots of people who want to hear what I
Yes,
have to say. My family and friends, they don't want to hear anymore.
I'm with you on that. They're like, heard it, mom. All right, Kelly. I think you've repeated yourself now. And you're like, okay, fine. I need my circle of other artists to have
Yeah,
conversations with, right?
yeah.
And that's what podcasts are for, because we get to kind of dive into and hear like the heart and soul of how other artists do things. But that's also why I created the Remarkable League, so that we do have that tight-knit group of artists who are all ambitious and moving in the same direction. And I just figured I'll start off right now with that and say, you're the reason why I launched it this spring and didn't wait any longer. And
I
I'm
love
so grateful. I am so grateful for that, because though my mentorship had been under progress all last year and I had every intention of doing something this year, I was in that place of procrastination perfection where it's not quite ready yet. I need to wait until it's perfect. I'm not sure if this is the right offer. And like, so I go through that same process of
yeah.
second guessing. And then I got this message from Delight Rogers in my inbox that said, I have been waiting since last summer for you to make an offer. When are you going to have something? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't think I realized that by me procrastinating, I'm holding you back. I'm holding my everyone who ended up joining it. I'm holding them back from their progress. And I am so, so grateful, because that was such an aha in my head. Like that light bulb went off. So thank you so much, Delight. She was also the very first person to sign on the dotted line and say, yes, I'm in. So
Nice.
yeah. What was it about? Like, I'm assuming the podcast had a lot to do with you making that request of me.
hmm And I think I was just in like timing wise, I was at that place in business where the information that I was getting from the Unfold podcast was bang on, and I was moving with all that information, but I was hearing, obviously, also knew that it was the perfect fit for where I wanted to go with my art business. So
Mhm.
I love that you paid attention to my message and actually responded to it like that. That's fantastic.
Well, if anyone knows, I try to be as generous as possible and connect with the
Yes.
people who are out there. It's not like it's me over here on this platform looking down at everyone. I'm amongst you, I'm part of you. I
Yeah.
just am grateful that I have the opportunity to share. That's really what it comes down to for me, is that if the gifts that I've been given can be passed on to others to make their life better in any way, shape, or form, especially in their business, then I feel like it's my responsibility. But that's also what I teach you, which is you've been given a gift and it's your responsibility now to share that gift. So I was really excited to be able to invite you in to participate in Deck of Dreams, which has been my ongoing year-long course. I haven't really had a chance to talk about it lately because we've been knee deep in the Virtual Art Summit, and that's just finally coming to an end. This is the only time I'm running Deck of Dreams 365. So I am very grateful to you to be part of it and to participate by providing a really cool art lesson, specifically on duality. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about your project, and then we're going to go into your history, because I know people will be like, well, where did she come from? What is she doing? But let's start with this lesson. Like, I felt like duality was a good match for you because you are kind of that soul embodied type of an artist. So if you'll speak a
Yeah.
little on that.
Yeah. I love the theme of duality, and thank you for the opportunity of being the guest artist for July. It's been a fun project. I love affirmation cards. I have ridiculous amount of those type of affirmation card and intention setting decks around. And I've always seen things about making your own and thought, oh, I'd love to do that someday. So this actually got me to the point where I made them. And it was a lot of fun. I often work really big, but recently I've had a few projects where small, like these cards, and I didn't think it was my thing, but I actually like it, and I get really involved in the intricate details of them. So it's fun to take my art and my processes in and apply it to these cards and kind of
Yes.
share that with everybody.
Yeah, I love the small size of them too. It's very like mindful in creating.
Yes.
Yeah. What's your take on duality? If you can explain a little bit of what that actually means, to the listeners, or, even your view of it. I'd love to hear.
Mhm. Well, it's interesting in the July workshop. we set an intention around duality and sort of its journey and a different framing it as oneness. What I focused on was the stillness and movement and dark and light, and those were the dual concepts that I put into the cards. And then
Yes.
we thought, we're thinking about, when we're making it, the idea of duality to two things, whether it's dark and light, stillness or motion, that they're two sides of the same coin, and that they don't have to be as separate as they are. And the more we can bring them together and kind of feel comfortable with both of them, and the duality is inside us. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a growth, personal
Yeah.
good stuff.
Both sides of the same coin. So for me, as I've been kind of exploring in the last couple of years my spirituality on a deeper level, I don't talk about it too often. I did for a little while in the podcast last year, and maybe it's time for me to reveal my progress again, but I've been really focused just on bringing on amazing guests this first half of the year. But when I first heard the concept of duality, I was struck by this idea of finally to understand that as you walk down one path of spirituality and the other path of life grounded here on this plane where we are, that we can live both ways and have it go together cohesively. And so I see duality like that, light and dark, the motion and the stillness, that we need both parts of it to be a whole person. And once I caught that concept, I'm like, okay, so my spiritual growth doesn't mean that I always have to be in this perfect place of spiritual enlightenment, which is completely ridiculous and improbable and impossible, but it was like really liberating to me. So one of the reasons why I wanted that theme in our deck of dreams, because we do dive into different concepts of ourselves throughout the year, whether it's self-love or joyfulness, or in this case, I thought duality would be a really interesting way to go with it, and especially a take on it in art, which is kind of cool. And I just knew you would be the perfect person for that theme, because I see it in your artwork. I see it in the way you carry yourself and everything that I've learned about you and know about you at this point. So I have no doubt the lesson in and of itself is going to be really enriching. So for those of you who are already in Deck of Dreams, almost 1,000 people who've signed up now, I encourage those of you who haven't. I mean, it is 12 whole lessons plus bonuses that takes you through a whole year of self-discovery in miniature art form, which is super fun. And I've invited in other guests because I didn't want it to just be my point of view or my focus. So Delight has been a guest in July's Deck of Dreams. But I would love to now kind of go deeper into who you are and your history as an artist, and really honestly as a remarkable human being.
Well, thank you. So I was thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask me that question. And being in my 50s, it gets big, right? It's a long history. There's a lot that happens along the way, but definitely grew up grounded in art. My parents were artists. They were both educators as well. So that was kind of where I grew from, was art and education. And that's kind of, I've circled all over the place, but I've come back to that at this point in my life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done, I have a degree in classical archaeology. I worked in Greece excavating for a while. I had a really successful photography business in Toronto in the entertainment industry. I've been teaching at an outdoor education camp for a long time teaching teens that are in a mental health treatment center. And here I am making art now and doing this incredible, remarkable league with you. So it's just, life's been great. I've jumped all over the place, done lots of traveling, and art has always been there. It's either painting came later. I painted in high school. I did a huge mural on one of the school walls, and I would draw and do things in a sketchbook. But when I first moved to where I am now, I took a teaching job in this little village of 800 people in Northern Ontario. Sight unseen, I accepted the job and moved there with my 3 kids. And anyway, within the first year, I was invited to a mixed media workshop. I had no idea what it was, but it was in this neat old barn. It was going to be in the upstairs loft of the barn. I knew there was a fairy garden I had to walk through to get to it. So I thought, I'm just going to go because, no matter what we're doing up there, I just want to experience all that and be in that space. And that was the first time I painted on a canvas. So that was, 2010. And it was just, I never looked back. I fell in love with mixed media. I just love the freedom of it. I love just every possibility. And it's so tactile, which is me. I like that. Mm. And from that first one, the next day, I found a canvas and just started painting. And from there, I would buy secondhand canvases. I bought lots on eBay of used art supplies just to sort of grow it. And I was a mad painter for a long time and tried out different genres, different mediums, everything. I just wanted to see what it was all about. And it's neat to be at this place now. so much later, where all those things I did and all the exploration I did early in mixed media has come together into the kind of work I create now. And I mean, it's constantly evolving still, but I see all of that. My background as well, photography, archaeology, all come out in my art.
Oh, I can see the connection between archaeology and mixed media because archaeology is an excavation and
Yeah,
has
and the
all these
layers.
layers. And then it's like, I think that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with mixed media as well, is like what can be buried underneath more layers. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
magic in that, right? And I'm a big, huge fan of mixed media. I'm like you, it's like I can't get enough of it. And I have tried all different kinds of mediums. I think it's an important part of the process discovering who you are as an artist and what you want to create is to try it all, right? So I've done oil pastel, I've done soft pastel, I've done oil painting, I've done watercolor, acrylic painting, but then when you realize you can just put it all together, it's like brain
Yeah,
explosion. It's so
yeah.
much fun. I'm curious about the experience you had as an archaeologist because, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but when I was little, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. That was my dream job. If I could just like Jacques Cousteau sail around the world and discover lost treasures, I would have totally done that. But instead, I'm here in my house pretty much 5, 6 days of the week doing
Yeah,
this, which I love
me
so
too.
much because this is a completely different discovery process of the humankind, of alive living humankind, rather than exploring the past. But what was it that drew you to archaeology, and what
Oh,
kind of experiences did you have with that?
so I grew up, my parents, when I was, I think, 8 months old, we moved to this abandoned farm in Eastern Ontario, Canada. No heat, no hydro, no plumbing.
Wow.
And that's where I was raised. Like, I guess you call it off grid now. There wasn't a name for it at that point. But, and we were antique collectors, I guess. But I grew up exploring around foundations of old abandoned homes and
Oh,
finding, of bottles and different things, artifacts. And we were even published in magazines where it was this they called it the joy of junk, what we were doing. So grew up digging and the layers and finding things, absolutely. But when I first went to university, I started out in education because I thought my parents were educators. That was what I was supposed to do. But randomly took a summer class after my first year in archaeology, and kind of like mixed media. I was like, oh, I love this. I love everything about this because there's the art history piece, there's the
yeah.
travel, there's the history, and then also the discovery part.
Wow. And so you've been to Greece with some of your travel. Have you been anywhere else to specifically do archaeology and research?
No, I mean, I've explored other active excavations through the Mediterranean, but the only one that I actively worked on was in Greece for 4 years. So that was fun. Yeah, just my 4 months through the summer each year. But
Oh, okay. 4 months
yeah,
every year during the summer.
yeah,
I'm so jealous about that. And I'm kind of wondering why you didn't just stay in Greece forever.
yeah. Well, I met a guy. There's always that story, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So yeah, I ended up meeting a musician, fell in love, and kind of started. That's when I started to get into the fatigue because I was traveling around with him on stuff, and I was really tapped into the entertainment industry. So it was easy for me to step into doing it for money, and it grew pretty quickly from there. So yeah,
Yeah, you
archaeology
did
was
that.
left behind.
Archaeology was left behind, but that's still part of who you are, which is great.
Yeah.
If you could go, um, just pretend like time can be collapsed and you're back in that moment where, obviously you were meant to be on this path. So I don't want to dissuade you from saying that you're not on the right place at the right time, making your art and influencing and helping other artists. But if you could collapse time and go back, if there was one place you could do an archaeological dig, where would it be?
Interesting. Well, for sure in the Mediterranean. I mean, that's my area of interest is the
Mhm.
classical archaeology. And Crete was a place. I mean, I haven't visited. I visited a lot of places in Greece, but I haven't been to Crete, and I would love to excavate there.
Oh, wow.
And
That's cool.
yeah, because it's sort of there's endless things being found there, and it's such a huge expedition. Yeah, I would
Mhm.
love that. How about you? Where's your
Yeah,
spot?
me. Because if I'm going to go back, like not from where a place of where I am now, but who I was then, I would have loved to go to Egypt or India
Mhm,
or the Amazon jungle. I don't know why, but those were the three places that were extraordinarily exotic and fascinating to me. I think
mhm.
still in this modern time, I went to Nepal last year, as you know, but I would still love to go to India and to Egypt. But certainly want to do it in a place and in a time and in a way that's very safe and secure. And,
I
and not the like free solo travel part that I had maybe in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I spent a month in Egypt in my early 20s, but I mean, that was a long time ago. And now I definitely wouldn't think about doing that journey, especially on my own. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but it still would be so remarkable. I remember the first time I saw Ramses the second on tour, and I was just like mind blown. And still to this day, you can see a lot of that in our different national museums and such. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's so much fun. And there's times where I like to incorporate all those ideas into my artwork. How much do you think that influences your artwork? Let's be honest, you do mostly faces, so I don't see a necessary correlation, but maybe there's something that we haven't uncovered in your work.
Well, I think it's definitely the layers, and some of my work will end up almost having a fresco kind of feeling, like the old art, because I'll sand parts down and I'll scrape plaster across and I'll take things on and off. And I think that would be the main place that I see that part is
Yeah, the fresco.
in
Okay.
the layers. And yeah, the invented portraits are from different parts of my life journey, not from the archaeology, but
There
I
you
love
go.
that it all comes in together.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Maybe a little bit of mythology.
Oh, for sure, you're right. In spirituality, it's all in there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So the photography time, you did that. Well, you're Canadian and you live outside of Toronto. Did you do the photography in Toronto?
Yeah, for about 10 years I was there. And it I see that in my work because I was primarily doing um shooting people for the entertainment industry. So public, where you're trying to capture a person's character and their essence in the photo. So I definitely see that now that I am obsessed with painting portraits.
Yes, okay. That makes sense where that connection is. So the two different sides of you, pre regular painting. We've always been artists, and you said that in your youth you were making art, but like coming back to being an artist, you're taking those other elements of you and putting it into your work, which is something that I have regularly tried to teach, that what who we are is coming out in our work, both our art and our business. You know, it's that's our kind of our destiny is to create the kind of lifestyle, artwork, and business that fits in with our loves, our desires, our knowledge and experience. So I can kind of see how that's all coming together, meshing together
Yeah.
beautifully. So where did you fit in kids? You have three kids.
I
Where
have
did you
three
fit in
kids.
kids to that?
They just kind of happened along the way. And I did pretty much raise them on my own. So, but yeah, they're just sort of a part of my world. And yeah, I don't know. You just do what you got to do too, right?
Yeah, you do. We
Yeah.
learn how to be self-sufficient women, making our art, doing our thing, and still somehow raising kids, hoping that they
Yeah.
will be an important part of society as well. Are they grown now?
16, 18, and 23. So getting there. But
Yeah.
I should say that's why I circled back to education. So I needed, especially being on my own, I needed to know I had a stable income, which you don't necessarily have when you're a freelance photographer.
Hmm.
And I needed to know I had, when the kids were in school, I had similar holidays and I would them because as the person, them I needed to. So went back, got the second degree in education, and have been teaching, which is adventure. I've taught in the far north on a fly-in remote reserve. I've done some neat things teaching, but I'm on to something new now.
Yes, you're teaching art now. I love it that it's taking you and kind of like into the direction of doing it on your own. What is it that appeals to you to really create your own business out of this? Because that's not for the faint of heart. Let's be honest. In the
Mhm.
2 months you've been in the Remarkable League, I've piled on so much information. It probably feels overwhelming and exciting, but it's not something that just anyone can pick up and do. I mean, anyone can if they have a deep enough desire, but most people, they're not going to choose that path. What is it about it that you've chosen this path?
Well, I almost want to say the path chose me, but it just so art has been becoming more and more of a force in my life, and known for a number of years now that that's where my heart is, and I wanted to be teaching art, making art, sharing those processes, and being part of that and that art community, art business. And I had a bit of a crisis last year with one of my children, and I had to stop working, and I haven't been working for over a year now. At that point, it was beautiful and awful all at the same time. The hard parts, obviously, the I found I just my art became kind of my whole world, and I immersed myself in it, and I did a lot of growth, and I knew I want to be able to share. I want to be able to share what I've learned and how I weave wellness practices and spirituality into my art making. And just even how just the process of making and the rituals around it are such a huge tool for healing mental health or working through trauma.
Or just diving deeper into knowing who you are.
Yes.
I mean, that's been
Yes.
such a remarkable thing, even for me in my own art practice, when I allow it, when I don't get all in my head. How do you connect the two? I know you have a little bit of a background in teaching too, the more spiritual side of things. What was the camp that you were in?
So for the last 10 years, I've been contracted out by my school board to a mental health treatment center for youth, 12 to 17. And they live there and they all have pretty significant mental health struggles to the point where they've been removed from their schools and their homes.
Ooh.
And so it was a lot of learning from regular teaching for me, but it was that mental health work and spirituality and personal growth healing was part of what I had to include in all my teaching. And another nice thing about being where I was, so it was a 1,000-acre camp in the woods, and I was teaching outdoor education, which I loved. But in addition to that, I was able to choose the other courses that I taught. So I was teaching art, so taught art all the way through, and obviously that was a huge part of the day, the school day with them, where we did the growth and the wellness and mindfulness and all that through the art and being outside in nature.
And being outside in nature. That's amazing. Then that connects me back to your childhood of having moved out to the middle of nowhere off grid. Did you ever get on grid? I mean, I'm assuming at some point your parents had some running water for you.
We did by age 10, we got hooked up. Yeah, we got water and toilet inside, all that good stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Did you like have old fashioned like pump and bring the
the
buckets
pump.
of water in the house? Hey,
Yeah,
man, look at you. No, so you're perfectly qualified to help those young adults in through their troubled teens in the nature and the outdoors. So you have that background just from the way you grew up. In some ways, I like really envy of that. Don't we all need like an off-grid experience in this modern day to disconnect us from all this technology? And I'm sure that that's why the place where you were working and teaching did that, put them so remotely, is because it's a chance of healing when
yeah,
you're in nature like that.
yeah. They were the majority of the kids were from Toronto, from big metro areas, and it was to just remove them. And yeah, nature's so healing,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was the perfect place for that.
How is that inspiring your work now as you teach primarily adult women?
Um, well, everything that I learned and how I grew as an educator and an art teacher in a mental health setting comes into the art I'm making and the workshops I'm making. But um, in addition to that, equally, it's my own mental health work I've been doing and my own learning in that way that is all woven into it too and influenced. So it's not just teaching, this is how we're going to make something. It's a bit of a journey. My art to me is a journey. Each piece I pour a lot of myself in, and they end up being a time capsule of what was happening in my life at the time I was making them. And it's very healing, and it's sort of a beautiful thing. It's a soulful journey, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's the influence I've had, the things that have happened that have brought me to where I am, and wanting to share and make that type of workshop and offer it to other people, because as we all know, there are so many people struggling with different mental health and troubles and whatever else is happening. Lots of things, lots of hard things happening in the world right now.
Yeah. Talk more about where you're going, because you have taught a little bit. You have a couple of classes online, right? But you're
Yeah.
working on a signature offer, and I would love to just kind of discuss how you envision that all unfolding for your hopefully listeners here, potential clients in the future. Um, tell me like how you envision what they're going to learn. Obviously, you are a mixed media artist. You have all these beautiful layers and you work on portraiture. So let's talk a little bit about how that all comes together.
Okay, so my New Year's resolution for 2022, so just over a year ago, a year and a half ago, I guess now,
Yeah.
was to be able to paint or make a face. I was finding ways to get a face onto the canvas just to get a head start on it. On Pinterest, you can find there's a lot of vintage portraits that are royalty free and that you can use. And so what I would do is I would either look at them and create it, but at the beginning, I would print a big one and do a transfer, and it would just be the outline. It would be to get the face shape, the placement of the mouth, the nose, the eyes, because you can spend so much time trying to get all that just right, especially when you're just learning how to do faces, and then it kind of takes the joy.
Yeah.
It lessens the joy of just playful creation that mixed media is. So the workshop I'm putting out is that it's showing a whole bunch of different ways, at least 5. I'm not sure yet how many I'm going to include, but ways to get a face on a canvas without having to create them freehand. And the workshop will be a self-portrait, hopefully. I mean, people could decide to not do a self-portrait, but that's the intention, is to create that and be able to transfer the portrait that you've chosen onto the canvas, and then go through all the processes of putting your emotions and your feelings and whatever's happening onto that canvas. So it'll be really personal. It'll be a journey you're having either at the time you're creating it, or a certain thing you want to work through on a canvas, and it's that journey you're putting out. But that's the intention, because I just had so many beautiful experiences doing that type of creating, and I've healed so much through it, and I would like to share that with other people and have them have that kind of transformation too.
Right. So it's less, though it teaches art techniques and actual some easy ways to make the face appear on the canvas without the struggle. But it sounds to me like, and I know this also from working with you, that it's really for the creative person who wants to do some self exploration and some self discovery, and to really like have that holistic approach to creating. That's the whole experience, rather than just focused on technique or learning to be an artist, a proficient artist. It's more like the whole self involved and put into. It's an experience. It's more than
Yeah.
just a class or a video to watch. It's an experience.
Well, nice. I think so too. And I mean, it's looking at the creative rituals around starting the process and through the process. It's about getting out of your head and creating from your heart. So yeah, there's a lot more to it than just this is how I make my mixed media art. So I can't wait to share it with people. I can't wait for people to experience it and, give me feedback on the journeys they've had through the process. And there will be a live component as well. So there'll be a chance to actually create a community, probably on Facebook groups, where we'll be able to interact and personally connect with the other people that are doing the workshop as well, and taking the journey.
Taking the journey. Exactly. But in the meantime, I think you have a little free offer, and we're going to make sure that we link that up in the show notes so that everyone has a chance to sign up and get to know you better, so that they can find out if like this is the place that they need in their life to explore deeper their own self and creativity. So make note, there will be a sign up for that.
Yeah.
One question I love to ask every guest on the podcast: what is your big audacious dream? And we already know that you're going to do a course, but what is your bigger audacious dream?
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I knew you were going to ask me this too. So I did some thinking on it. And interestingly, a year ago, I probably would have said exactly what I'm doing right now. So doing art, creating workshops, growing my art business, working in this fabulous art community with the mentorship and with the Remarkable League. But that's to step it up now to the next big dream.
We
And
always say, let's go even bigger, because that's
yeah,
the fuel of life, is to like continue with our dreams and our goals and our just big vision.
yeah. So, and this one is, I have no idea if I could ever do it, but that's what it's all about, right? The big dreams. So it would be to go to Indonesia, probably to Bali for an extended period of time, kind of like part of the Eat, Pray, Love journey, but just the
Yes,
Bali part,
just the Valley
and
part.
do more personal work, personal growth, meditate, and grow my art and grow just as a human being, with that time, like maybe 3 months, 6 months, where I can just absolutely focus in on that spirituality
That doesn't
and
sound at
growing.
all like an impossible dream. That's a very doable dream. And let's come on, open up that mind and spirit to possibility. The world is abundant. And also, we're still young, right? 50s are young, which also
Yeah.
you don't even look like you're in your 50s. So,
Wow.
but I'm just going to say that as somebody who's knocking on the door this year to 50, like I still have another half of my life for those kinds of wild travels.
That's
And
how I
so do
look at it.
you. Yeah. Who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe we'll do it and we'll bring a whole like group of like-minded, deep-hearted artist women. And there you go.
Hmm.
That could be quite the adventure. That's a level of spirituality and art that I could get behind. Well, thank you so much. How does everyone find you on Instagram?
At Delight_Rogers_art, Pinterest, Delight Rogers Art, and on YouTube as well at Delight Rogers Art. And on YouTube, I have a channel that has a number of videos and shorts that explore what I'm doing. So they're looking at art and lifestyle and wellness, and they're a bit of a chance to see what I'm up to and also do some learning as far as our creative growth and yeah.
Yeah, I
Wellness.
recommend everyone connect with you over there on YouTube for sure. YouTube's the hot new place to be anyway, so we might as well just like get to know each other better over there, right? So
Yes.
delight, does everyone say this? It's been a delight.
I get that a lot. Yeah.
I'm sure. And I had to go with the pun. I come from a family of funny people. That was so cheesy. But yes, it's been a delight having you in the Remarkable League. It's been so exciting to get to know you. And I can not thank you enough for, prodding me just enough to say, hey, stop waiting for everything to be perfect and just take the chance to do it now. And that's why I have 19 people in the Remarkable League, 19 remarkable people in the Remarkable League, including Delight Rogers. And I am eternally grateful to you for that.
Yes, well, I love that I was a part of getting it going and loving the experience. I recommend it to anyone who feels like they're at that point in their art business where they need some mentorship from someone in the know.
No.
Kellee's the one.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the podcast. It has been such a pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah.
We'll talk again soon.
Okay.